incident,
Now,
right after that incident, I had a medical emergency and I could not get a doctor. And the only one I could get was Dr. Winslow, who was the kind of a doctor that if you didn't have money, you could bring him eggs or a chicken. And his office was in the back of his drugstore, Winslow Drug. And he finally saw me, and it wasn't very serious, but he took care of me. And I'll never forget that. It was...
So what'd you give him?
What?
What did you give him?
the chicken.
I paid him cash. Very unusual. What else can I tell you about my experiences? I can tell you that working on a farm, that poultry farm of ours, like I told you the story in my talk, you can't take a vacation. The eggs have to be gathered 3 times a day, because if you let the eggs accumulate in the nest, they break, and every broken egg has lost money. Also, chickens are cannibalistic. When a chicken lays an egg, there's an organ comes out called the oviduct, and it's blood red. And chickens love red, and as soon as they pick it, it starts to bleed. And they all come to feast on this oviduct, and they pull the whole intestinal bit out. The chicken's gone and dead. So what we do, somebody invented, a guy by the name of Rudolph, invented tiny little glasses that we put a pinch through their nostrils, and every chicken is wearing little red glasses, so everything they see is red. And it stopped the cannibalism. But that became so laborious that some guy said the chicken's beaks are faced like this. And in order to eat, they have to bring the 2 beaks together, and they sort of shovel the food in. So why don't we de-beak them? So we cut off the top, we burn off the top of the beak, and I was doing that. And when I de-beak chickens, thousands of chickens at a time, and you smell all that meat for 3 or 4 hours a day, I was getting 3 and 4 cents a bird. And I was doing thousands of birds, and I had 4 de-beakers going with high school boys. So that's how I got my kids through college, with de-beaking chickens. We used to cut the top beak off, so when they put the 2 beaks together, they had no contact to pull and pick. Interesting?
Say what you used to do when you came home from vaccination.
I used to make capons. Does anybody know what a capon is?
Sure.
That's the best eating chicken in the world. They grow to 6, 7, and 8 pounds, and I could operate on a chicken between the 3rd and 4th rib, and I have a little separator. I had the equipment. I don't do it anymore. I separate the 3rd and 4th rib, and I have a little platform with a hook on it, and I take out the sex organ. It's a tiny little kidney bean, and I could drop them. I have no mortality, no bleeding, and they lose all. Chickens love sex, like humans. And all they do is eat and eat and eat. And they get big, and they're so luscious. It's the best eating chicken made. It's a capon.
I don't see them anymore.
No, they don't make them anymore. No, they don't make them anymore. It's a long growing period. I could give you, this is a personal opinion now. I think chickens are the answer to the world's problems. This is my personal feeling now, my political feeling. I can give you food. I can give you 4 pounds of meat in 8 weeks. There's no other animal known to man that you can grow food cholesterol-free in 8 weeks. Now, if you have children and you don't have food, you don't give a damn who's running the country. You want food. And so all these poor countries ought to be growing chicken. And there was a time, 10 years ago, when the United States had so much corn, and I know this for a fact, they were selling corn to Israel for 2 cents a pound. That's how much corn we had. Now we're making fuel out of corn, so corn prices are sky high. But chicken would be the answer to the food problem in the world, and I feel very strongly about it. You think I ought to write to Obama?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Try.
Maybe he'll put you in his cabinet.
That's it.
Have you
No,
paid your
you probably paid
taxes?
your taxes, so you can't be in his
Can
cabinet.
I ask you a
Larry
question?
takes care of my taxes. My taxes are all paid.
All right, Nat. I'll just ask you one question.
I have a question.
Chicken minister.
Do you eat chicken now?
I eat chicken. I love chicken.
Okay.
They prepare chicken in 3 or 4 different kinds of ways. you know, chicken cacciatore and all kinds
Yeah.
of chicken, roast chicken. And then the other day, on the menu, they had squab. Well, I know all about chickens. And I said to the waitress, is this a whole squab or a half a squab? Because there's not much meat on a half a squab. And if I only get one meal a day, I want to have a good dinner. So I said to her, I want the whole squab. So she came back and she had a message from the chef, who I know very well. And the chef said, Mr. Herring, you going to eat that whole squab? I said, I know how much meat is on a squab. You bring me the whole squab. And I had the whole squab. And when they served me, like, what was it, the fillets. The fillets. And Bob asked, how big are the fillets? And she said, oh, they're this big. And Bob said, bring me 2. So whenever I order, I say, how many are on this? We get shrimp. I say, how many shrimp are on there? She said, 4. I say, how big are they? How big are they? She says, I better bring you 6. That's how I order my food. But I'm living in a wonderful place. It's the Cadillac of senior communities. I pay an awful big rent, but I'm very happy there. I got to get a stick with a rubber end so I can beat the women away. Because it's getting so that it's annoying. It is. I have my Marion, and she and I are just friends. We're dear friends, and it helps me shake the disease called loneliness, which a lot of people who have lost their loved ones know all about it. Eating alone and not having anybody to talk to, and since I met Marion, I got into Sierra Point at the same time as a preacher did. He sat opposite me, and he and I became very friends, and he was born and raised in Arizona. Every time we went on a bus tour, he knew the name of every mountain and everything. Well, our waitress was Brandy, who was just gorgeous, beautiful college girl. And I said to Brandy one day, would you marry me? And the preacher said, he didn't know me that well, but he knew me. So he said to Brandy, marry him. He's got a lot of money, and I'll be the preacher. So she said to me, Mr. Herring, go home. I have a father. It's a true story. I can also tell you about the two. Did I tell you I have a fish on my door? Mm-hmm. I have a metal fish on my door. And Marion and I were walking home one night, and these 2 women we knew, and one woman said, somebody rang my doorbell at 3 a.m. in the morning. And I said, boy, I wish somebody'd ring my bell at 3 a.m. in the morning. And both of them said, what's your apartment number? Now I got to take the fish off the damn door. True story.
Tell them I told you about charging.
Huh?
Tell them about what I told you about charging.
Well, you tell. I'll tell you another story, and this is a true story. When I first moved in there, and I was still grieving. I was grieving for about 6 months before I met Marion, and she said, you want to be friends? But this woman was waiting to go into the dining room, and the label of her blouse was out, and it showed the name of the manufacturer. Well, big mouth. I said, Madam, do you mind if I put the label, which shows the name of the manufacturer of your blouse, and tuck it in the back of your blouse? And she turned around to me, and she said, you're new here, aren't you? Scowling at me. You're new here, aren't you? Yeah. What's your name? I said, Nat. She said, I do this on purpose, so the men will help me put my labels in. True story. What else can I tell you about Sierra Point? It's just a wonderful place to live if we had more men.